My leadership philosophy is very simple. You don't make any decision that the people that are working with you can make for themselves.
Ooh. Hey, everyone. This is Alicia Couri here with another episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. And my guest today is Sharón Wyeth. Sharón is so fascinating. I had to have her on the show because not only has she created something so spectacular, but we're also going to talk about her leadership. So let me tell you a little bit about Sharón. Sharón Wyeth is an internationally recognized name expert. She can determine one's strengths, challenges, and the purpose of one's life by deciphering a person's name. Sharón created Neimology Science, the study of the placement of the letters in a name, after 15 years of research. Sharón assists HR business departments to narrow down candidates to be interviewed. She assists lawyers in how to present cases to judges and helps couples and families to communicate better. Sharón also creates names for new businesses, new products, and when people wish to change their name, she also helps them with that. She's written several best-selling books and is a frequent guest on radio and television. So her website is www.knowthename.com. But today we're talking about leadership with Sharón because she also has an extensive background in teaching and administration. So we're going to mix all of that up together and talk about leadership and confidence and your name all at once. So stay tuned. This is going to be awesome. So hi, Sharón.
Oh, thanks for having me on your show, Alicia.
You're very welcome. So let me start off with, what is your leadership philosophy?
My leadership philosophy is very simple. You don't make any decision that the people that are working with you can make for themselves.
Ooh.
And so you want to empower the people that are working with you. Teachers used to come to me and say, I'd like to try this in the classroom. And I'd say, you're the teacher, try it. Now, sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not. If it works, keep going. You don't need to tell me. If it doesn't work, immediately tell me, because that way I can fend off the phone calls. And if it doesn't work, I'm not going to be upset. Because if you don't have liberty to keep doing something different, how are you going to grow?
Wow.
You're not.
That is amazing. Yes. I love that. I love the way you phrased it, the way you put it, because you know what? I had a guest recently talk about how companies, these Inc. 5000 companies that he had interviewed, and said that they celebrate failures. Like at the end of the year, they give awards for the biggest failures as well, because that is how they all grew, and they want their teams and their people to know it's okay to take a chance. It's okay to try something. If it doesn't work, great. We've learned something, you know.
Well,
so
you know what the word
they
fail stands for, right? FAIL, first
Tell me.
attempt in learning. It's
Say that
first
again?
attempt in learning.
First attempt in learning.
That's
I've
it.
never heard that one before. First attempt in learning. That is awesome. I'm going to put that on. I'm gonna put that on a wall.
You know, I used to say that to my students too. They'd walk into the classroom for the first time and there was this big sign up that said fail, and underneath it, first attempt in learning. And it was literally saying, I don't expect you to do it right the first time or the second time and possibly the third or fourth time. However, we don't give up in here.
Yes, that's excellent. And so I want to switch gears just for a moment, because I want to ask you about Nameology. How did that whole thing come about? Being a teacher, being an administrator, how did Neimology Science come around?
When I was making my seating chart in my 7th year of teaching, when I was 26, I started putting down the names randomly, like I always do at the beginning of the year, because you want to let the children know that you're the one in charge. You don't want them sitting how they want to sit. And so you put it down randomly. Only my brain was saying, don't put Joshua next to Julie because together they're going to be clowns. And Stephanie's going to be stubborn, put her over on the side so you don't have to change your seat so often. And Darren's going to need extra, help, put him up front. And it didn't dawn on me until I started my 4th class that I went, wait a minute, I don't know these students yet. And so I went back and I wrote down my impression of every student. All I had was their name. And I put it away until winter break. And when I got it out at winter break, I looked at it and I was astonished at the accuracy. So I said, okay, my brain has picked up some kind of patterning. How do I make what's unconscious conscious? Now, I have to admit, I was a math major in college and I have my master's degree. So my brain's thoroughly trained in patterns, So it took me 15 years to figure out all the patterns. Wow. And then I went and traveled to over 70 countries testing it when I was invited to go speak. And everybody wanted more information. And so that's what caused the book to come out, and then the consequential books. And for me to move after 40 years in education into just doing Neimology Science.
Wow, that is amazing. Isn't the brain just so phenomenal how it can do these things? So I love how you're so generous too with your gift, because it is a gift. Your brain works in this way, and you were able to unpack that and really create that system and process that now you teach other people and you certify other people how to do this. But
they can do it just as well as I can.
Sorry? They can do it just as well as you.
Can do it just as well as I can.
Because you've created such a system to follow that, like you said, it is a science. You have broken it down so that it is an accurate and repeatable science.
Exactly. And the trademark company, when I just wanted to trademark Nameology, they wouldn't let me trademark it unless I called it a science. And that's why it's called Neimology Science.
Yeah, because it is a science. It's not just theory anymore. You have proven that it works. Now, how can this help someone? Because I believe that neither confidence or leadership is something that you're born with. It's something that you develop. So how do you agree with that, number one? And number two, how can someone know in their name how to be more confident? Is that even something that they can do?
Okay, so leadership or leadership styles show up in a name. And whether you want to be the leader or not, that makes a big difference. Because like in your name and in my name, it's like if somebody else wants to be the leader, it's okay with us as long as they're competent.
Yes.
But if they're not competent, it's like, oh, get out of the way, we're taking over.
That is so true. That is so true. I'm fine with someone else leading, but if they're not doing a good job, I'll step right in there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's true of people whose first vowel is an A. And you've got it in your name, I've got it in my name. The placement of the vowel doesn't matter. It's just the first vowel that you see. And so you've got to recognize which people want or choose to be leaders, because that's how they learn, that's how they grow. And which of us are worker bees, and we're very happy just being the worker bee, just know what you're doing. Yeah. Okay. So the style of how somebody leads is right there in the name. For an example, you and I had to learn how not to micromanage when we were leaders, because the first thing is you're not quite doing it exactly the way we'd like it done. And so we're going to micromanage. And of course that just freezes everybody up and they go, don't want to work for this one, So we have to learn, if we already know that's our technique or that's where we go, then we go, oh yeah, don't do that. How else can I present something so I'm not micromanaging?
Yeah. And I'm not good. I'm not one with details. Like I don't like a lot of detail. So I don't like to go deep into details with people. I like to tell them, okay, this is the outcome. And that's how I've learned now to just be free, and you come up with the outcome. This is what I want at the end of this.
Right. And then you can come up with a pathway.
Right.
Where in my name, I'm so detailed oriented that I'm like, oh, you missed one, And so, I mean, I had to grow into, if they can make a decision for themselves, do it. I had to grow into literally treating my teachers like I treated my students. I wanted my students to mature. I wanted them to grow. And so I literally learned to do the similar things with the teachers. you know?
So some of those, like you're saying, some of those things are in your name, and it can be a hindrance or it can be an asset.
Well,
But
if you know what they are,
if you know what it is,
then you go, oh, this is where I choose to adjust so that the picky-unishi of my name doesn't come out with somebody, okay? Or the overly generousness of somebody else's name wouldn't come out. And there's certain letters or combinations of letters that really cause somebody to be an excellent leader. Okay. And there's other letters that say, yes, this person's a good leader, but man, they're hard to work for.
Oh,
you know,
what are some, just give me some examples of those combos.
if a name starts with a C, okay, those people lead because that's how they grow. But if you grow or you learn from them, oh, well, that's up to you. They're leading so that they can grow. Now, the CO combination is one of the most difficult to work for because they're so controlling. And so it makes it difficult to work for them. Unless you totally align with how they want things done, you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe in this, with this boss. On the other hand, you have Ks that when the first letter of a name is a K, they naturally lead where everybody benefits. They don't feel like they win unless everybody wins. And the KE is one of the best at that because then they have the empathy and the people skills to go along with their leading style where everybody wins when they lead.
Wow.
Now T's lead. If the first name starts with a T, boy, those guys like to be on top. So you want to hang your hitch to one of those. If they're on the ladder going up, you want to hang your hitch because they'll pull you right up there with them.
Oh,
And so if you know the different letters and how they do it, like if the first letter is a B, they're competitive. Do you want to compete? Is that what gets you going? Then work with a B because, man, they want to be the best that's out there. They want to be better than everybody else. So the competition's on.
Right.
So if competition spurs you, then you want to work with somebody whose first letter is a B. And so that's what
And does it matter it's a first name or a middle name or a last name?
I'm talking about first letters of first names right now.
First names. Okay.
Okay. Now, if it's the first letter of a middle name, they're only like that sometimes.
Okay.
Because the middle name explains intermittent behaviors where the first name is consistent behaviors.
Okay.
And then just to say, going on with the last name is our environmental influence and who we attract to us. So our first name is our nature and our last name is our nurture.
Ah, okay. Okay. Wow. See, I have to take your course because I need to learn all of this. So this is so fascinating. So fascinating.
Well, it only takes 15 hours.
It only, and
I mean,
yeah,
it took me
you can
15
find
years
15
to
hours
figure
to
out,
do it.
but yeah, I can teach it in 15 hours. So think about it as 2 days.
That's amazing. So that's leadership. What about confidence? What about, because some people are like, well, I'm introverted, I'm extroverted. I said, well, confidence has nothing to do with introversion or extroversion. It really doesn't. So how does confidence show up in our names?
So confidence to me is knowing that you have the ability to do something. I'm good at this. There's your confidence. And I will readily admit I'm not good at some things. That's what we pay other people to do, right?
Exactly.
It's like, oh no, I'd rather pay for that one. So confidence shows up with the letter L, and it depends on where it is in a name. If it's at the first letter or the beginning of a name, they get confident their entire life. Like yours is right after your A. So you have confidence your entire life. Okay. If it shows up. But you could lose it.
Which I did.
It depends on what letters follow that letter L. Okay. You can lose it and then regain it. Okay.
Which is what happened with me. Yeah. I lost it and then I regained it.
And regained it. So that's if the L's at the beginning, you got to watch those other letters. So if the L is in the middle, it's never an issue. They got confidence their whole lives. If the L is at the end of the name, the first name again, then they gain confidence as the years go by. They gain in more and more confidence. Okay. Now, not every name has an L in it. So then you've got to look at the other letters and say, where are they going to get it? What are they good at? And sometimes people need help seeing where their talents are.
Yes.
I mean, we drove 4 vans from San Antonio to NASA in Houston for our 8th graders one year when I was teaching at Nimitz Middle School there. And we did that to give our kids an experience. And on the way home, now us teachers that were driving had gotten up really early. The kids were still sleeping on the bus the whole time we got there. We got there at 8 in the morning, which meant we left at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the way home at the end of the day, we were tired. So I said to the kids, hey guys, you need to keep me awake by talking to me. You know, I've got to keep my brain going so I can stay awake for this 4 hours coming home. And so I had a child in the front seat with me, and I said, okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? You know, what do you want to study? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, what are you good at? And the kid goes, well, I don't know. And every question I asked, it was, I don't know. And I don't know was never the right answer, you know? And so I used the name, that child's name, and I said, well, this is what I've observed about you. And this is where I see your real gifts and talents are. And this would be really good in these occupations. You know, you can go in this direction. Well, 2 kids that were awake and the next seat back said, can we be next? Well,
do me.
Everybody on my bus, on my van, you know? But I was thinking about it, and I thought, we are failing our students if by 8th grade, which is what I was teaching that year, if they don't have an idea or a clue what they're good at, where their strengths are, and what fields those strengths can move into, you know, where you can celebrate your successes. Because what I found is, if you celebrate somebody's successes and really work on their gifts, if they have a weakness that needs to be stronger and able to support their gift, they learn it. Yeah. Like if somebody's really good in science, but they're not so good in math, once they realize they need the math and able to do the science, they learn the math.
Yeah, that's
the reason.
When I was in school, I had dreamed of being a lawyer. And back then, well, I went to high school in Trinidad, and French was a prerequisite because you had to take French in order to take Latin in order to do law. And my French teacher did not want me in her class. She said no, because I was willing to do the French. Before that, I wasn't willing to do French, and that's why she didn't want me in her class. Because before that, I could care less. But then when I learned that I needed French in order to continue along this path that I wanted to take, I went to her and I said, I want to be in your class. I want to take French because I need to take French in order to be able to take Latin by this grade. And she said, no, you're not coming in my class. So that just completely devastated me for ever having ever becoming a lawyer. But you know what? It probably worked out for the best anyway.
But see, I look at that and I think teachers don't have that right. You know, I look at it as, even if somebody asks me in a classroom the 3rd or 4th time in a row after I've already answered something for, you know, the other students, and it's the same question again, I look at it as, thank you for giving me an opportunity to answer this question again, because you're showing me you still wish to learn. And obviously I haven't done a good enough job answering this question, or you wouldn't need to ask it again. I never blame the student. It's always on, oops, I must have messed up. Thank you for giving me another opportunity.
And that's, again, leadership. That's leadership, accepting those responsibilities for the communication.
You know, well, I just look at it as, you don't want to shut somebody down. If they're willing to learn, they're willing to act, they're willing to grow. It's the same thing when I had teachers, when I was a principal, it was like, do something new, try something different. You don't need permission. You know, just if it blows, tell me.
Tell me. It doesn't work out. Please come to me quickly.
Because I'll get the phone calls.
Come to me quickly.
Well, and what the deal is, if a parent calls and complains, and I already knew that it failed, and I can say on the phone, oh, they were doing something different and something new. It didn't work. They're not going to do it again, or now we figured out how it needs to be modified. That parent comes right down and goes, oh, okay. And it's not an issue.
Exactly.
But if the parent calls and I have no clue, it escalates. They get more nervous. You know, then we have a problem. And that's why I always say, hey, I've got your back if you just tell me.
Yeah.
You know?
So leadership traits for kids, like you could recognize certain things and encourage. How can parents really nurture that in their child when they see something? Because my daughter, who we talked about the last time we spoke, my oldest, her name starts with a C. And when she was in, I think it was preschool, she was 3 years old. We put her in preschool. The second day, they came to me and they said, "Oh, your daughter's a natural born leader." And then by the end of the week, we were asked not to come back.
Because they want to take over.
Because she was like, she had all the kids doing stuff that they didn't want the kids to do. So they were like, I don't think she's ready for preschool. That was the nice way of saying, don't bring her back. She's ready.
But she is ready, And so you take your leaders and you say, this is the direction where we wish to go. How would you do this? Let's talk about it. And then you let them loose.
Mm-hmm. But she was 3 at the time. She's 20. She'll be 23 now. So that was...
Well, my children both will tell you that they've made all of their own decisions since they were 13. Because we would have discussions over the dinner table and we'd say, okay, this is what's coming up or this is what's happening. If we make what decision, what do you think the consequences of that choice is going to be? And so we'd look at, well, we could choose this way, that way, the next way, but what do you think the consequence is going to be? So we learn to make choices based on probable consequences of that choice. Mm-hmm. And I would always say, okay, we've had this great decision or great discussion. Now I'm making the decision. We're going to do this. Right. But the minute they turned 13, I said, okay, we've had this great discussion. What are you going to do? And then after they did it, I'd always ask them, so how'd it go? What parts do you want to keep? What parts do you want to change? Because I thought, you're not with your children all the time.
Exactly. You need to give them good decision-making abilities, that problem solving.
Yes. And you want them to think beyond the immediate. So if you do that, what's the probable consequence? If you do this way, what do you think is the natural reaction? If you do this way, and they used to call me at different times, even through college, and they'd say, okay, these are all the possible consequences I've thought of because these are the actions. Have I missed any? Is there anything I'm not seeing?
Right.
And those kind of calls got further and further apart, until it was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Except about 2 weeks ago, my son, who's now 40, called me and said, Mom, I need your advice. And I went, oh my God, this hasn't happened.
Since college, what is going on?
Oh my gosh, I am so ready.
Oh, wow.
But you encourage them to make choices and decisions because the qualities we want in our leaders are the hardest qualities for a parent to put up with in the child when they're kids.
Yes.
They are.
Yeah.
But you all of a sudden want them to have those qualities as an adult? Where are they going to get them?
How are they going to get them? It just doesn't magically happen when they turn 21. It's like, oh, bing, or
right.
18.
So you guide them all the way along, and same with when the kids would come into the office or we had a problem with students or a problem with the parents and the students or whatever, we talk about what do you want as the end result for your child? Well, how are we going to get there? We're on the same team. I used to always say that so many times to the parent. We're on the same team. We both want your child to succeed. And then I go, unless it is that you don't.
Yeah. Because I know I do.
I do. And then we get communication going on how are we going to get your child from where your child is to where we both would like your child to be.
Right.
And this is a team approach. They're only with us part of the day. They're with you part of the day. How are we going to support each other?
Yeah. So did your children have any, as you were, developing the Neimology Science and actually having that instinct to do it before you actually broke it down, were your children ever like, oh my God, Mom's going to find out about this, or she's already going to know that, she already knows?
They would say, yes, Mom, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
Mom, we don't want to know, and yet it was funny because at the beginning it was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. You know, you can tell me all about my friends, or they couldn't get away with anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Up in the name. They couldn't get away. And sometimes they'd go, "Who told you?" And I'd go, "Nobody needed to tell me. It sits right there in your name."
It says bad news all over you.
But when my kids got into college, then it became different. So my son I only lived 2 miles from his college, and he would bring people as a study group to our house to study around the kitchen table, because then they got fed at the same time. And when they would leave, he'd go, "Okay, Mom, you met everybody here. Tell me about this one. Tell me about this one. What's this one's name say?" And then my daughter went just the opposite. She literally was dating somebody that she ended up marrying. And the whole time she was dating him, she called him every kind of nickname in the book, you know, because she was not going to give me his name. And when I met my son's future wife, he says, "Don't tell her your name. Don't." He just gets too much knowledge. Don't tell her.
Don't tell her. It has too much information in that.
Don't tell her. And so I remember when I met her, I said, "Well, at least you're going to give me your first name, right?" And I thought, that's the beginning for me. And then I started asking questions, and my son had said, "What she can figure out from that name is amazing. Don't give her information." We started talking about different things.
You're the CIA.
And when I left, I said, she said, I was really good to her son, and said to my son, she goes, "I was really good. I didn't give her any information." I said, "Oh, sweetheart, you did.
You have no idea.
Here's how old you are. Here's where you graduated."
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Like, "How did you figure that out?" And I said, "Well, you said you were very artistic, so you showed me some of your paintings. Well, you signed your paintings. There's your last name."
You are stealthy. You are.
You know, and I thought, I'm not doing it to be nosy. I think this person is incredibly important in my child's life. I want to get to know this person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I don't want to be that mother-in-law that goes, "Oh my God, I can't stand this kid." Instead, I thought, I want to be able to go after common ground.
Yeah. Well, and that's who you are. That's your character anyway, because you're always seeking the best for the student, the child, your own child. You know, you're always looking for the best outcome. So
yeah, hopefully we all do that.
But again, you know that there are certain name combinations to stay away from. So it's like, you know I can't coach certain people because of their name, and they're just not going to listen to me. So that makes you very valuable in when you're coaching.
Well, I know that there are certain names when they come to me that I go, I really think one of my students will work better for it. You'll get more out of them, you know? And It's not because I choose not to work with that person or I don't like that person. It's just like I watch the conflicts between our letter combinations, and I think, one, I really don't want to work that hard. But two, they will listen better and get more out of somebody that doesn't have the combinations in my name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for an example, in my name, I have incredible fairness issues. Incredible fairness issues. And if we're not going to set it up where I think it's fair and it's a win-win, I don't want to play. You know? And it was funny because I have taught every grade, third grade, through a 4-year college, and everything in between. But middle school is my favorite. And they go, "Why, with all your math knowledge, do you want to teach middle school?" And I think I can influence them the best in a good direction, because they're pulling away from the influence of mom and dad, but they still want guidance. And so that's the most influential time period with a student. You make so many decisions while you're in those middle school grades.
Yes. Yeah, I have a middle schooler now. My last son is a middle schooler. So I know how that could be.
You know, and we need to build up our middle schoolers, especially so they don't drop out, because I think mentally that's where we lose them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That's what happened with my oldest in middle school. That's when she started to really pull away. So let's talk about certain traits, because we talked about leadership, we talked about confidence. Now, we did have this conversation about math. So can you tell in the name who's going to be really more adapted to mathematics, to science, to languages, to sports. Is that in the name?
Yes, that's in the name. It very much is in the name. I have to laugh when you say that, because there was one person who called me and said, I would like to learn Neimology Science. And I said, you don't have one letter in your name that says this is going to be easy. I said, I would choose something else. I said, this is going to be so hard for you, and I'm willing to work with you, but it's not going to be easy.
Can I ask if that's me? Can I? Because I want to learn it, but not if it's going to pull my hair out.
Well, you've got letters in your name that will cause you to work hard and get it. Okay. So if you just follow the system, you'll get it because you'll put in the work.
Okay.
Because you have a tendency to be a workaholic. You wanted something, you go for it, you work for it. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm not concerned about you learning it. Okay. But she had play letters in her name all the way through, and no letters that say she pays attention to any kind of detail. And I thought, my gosh, the whole thing is details, And anyway, a long story short is, I always say you can retake the class as many times as you want.
As long as it takes to get it.
Whatever it takes to get it. She took the first class like 3 times. She took the second class like twice. And I'll tell you, she's one of the best out there. She was so determined, and she worked and worked and worked. And I was constantly saying, you can't make the stuff up. You got to go with what the letter says.
Stop trying to wing it.
You just got to study it. But now she's got it.
She's got it. Well, that's great.
But the answer is yes, you can. So people with N's in their name, if it's in the first name, it's natural form. If it's and they can pick up things. If it's in the middle name, it's like they already got it. They came in with it. If it's in the last name, other people are teaching them how to do it, but they're receptive to it. Okay. But N's pay attention to the details. So if you have an N in your name, it's easier for you to learn something that is very detailed oriented than the people who have no N's in their name.
I have no N's anywhere.
Right. And you were saying you don't want to pay attention to the details. You want to give the end result. Well, I thought, of course, no N in the name.
No N's. Alicia, Camille, Maria, Davis, Couri, no N's.
Okay. And then if they have an O-N, that combination, that means they're anywhere in their name. It means that they have a thinking pattern that is logical, deductive, step by step. Okay. So that's very important. And so I had an O-N in my first name. I have an O-N in my last name. So it was like, okay, I'm good with these details. And I have 4 N's in my birth name. So I thought, okay, this is why I could do this, because I'm good with all these details. That's why I could do the math. Now, does everybody have to have an N? The answer is no, because CHs, if they apply themselves, like in the name Michelle, are also very good with the details. But the CHs normally go into science more than they go into math. They need the math to support the science. It's not that they love the math, but that CH combination is science oriented, and that C's as a whole carry science with them. So I think it's interesting that you want to be a lawyer, but a lawyer's mind is like a scientific mind. It's like, you've got to break things down.
That's the Camille. That's the C.
Well, and it's also in Alicia. You got that C.
I got the C in Alicia. Yeah.
So, and the C says, I need to be in charge of me. Don't put me underneath your thumb or your fingers or whatnot. I need to be the one in charge of me. When the first vowel of an I, those people are better off working for themselves because they're so independent. Okay, they're natural leaders, and people will come to them before they'll come to the assigned leader to ask a question. So like when I would have faculty meetings, when everybody left, I'd ask all my people with the first vowel of an I. I just called them by name. I go, would you guys come up here? They never realized what I was doing. And I would say, you guys are my natural leaders. Did you really get it? You have any questions? Because you know that the rest of the faculty is going to ask you before they come and ask me. And so I need to make sure you guys really got it and understand what's going on. And they never figured out, like, how'd you pick us?
How'd you know that? Do you have cameras in the room somewhere? Are you like spying on us?
But then the people with the first vowel of an O, They love to boss other people around. Okay?
Yeah, I know that. I know some people like that. I'm like going through my mind of all the people I know as you're talking.
And they start young as a kid. And they will boss other people around, and people listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So those people, you know, are going to end up often as a CEO, or at least they'll have autonomy. If they're not the head guy, they're going to have autonomy.
What about a U? We've gone through all the vowels with the U. First vowel of the U.
First vowel of a U, they just like to have fun. They're entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're big picture people. So if you need somebody to see the big picture and keep everybody on track for the big picture and not want to pay attention to the details, you put a U in there, and they'll keep everybody entertained, you know, so they lighten up the workload. However, you don't want to have too many people with a U, first vowel, on the same committee, because nothing will get done. They'll have a great time, but no results.
But no results. We're all having a great time.
You know, so knowing the names helps how you put your teams together. It helps who you assign to work under whom. I had one company that I was working with, after I'd worked with them quite a while on, they would give me the list of who had applied and the list of the qualities of the job. And I would say, oh, you want, this one's number one and this one's your number two. And I had worked with him quite a while successfully when he said, I'm just going to give you our whole flow chart. Where are our problems? And I was able to look at and go, okay, this one doesn't work well under here, but if you moved them over there, they'd be better off. And this one, and he was amazed. He says, you have nailed all of our problems. And I thought, yeah, they're personal problems. You know, and you want to hire people that are going to get along with the other people you already have on that team. And I was in one situation that I just loved. They had hired me to come out there personally and work with different groups. And I loved the lady that ushered me in. You have this much time to solve their problem. You have this much time to solve. Boy, she kept me on track. And we would start by going around and me saying something about each person, because they knew I didn't know them. And I couldn't have memorized all those people's whatever.
Right.
You know, just for me to show them that the science works. And then I'd say, okay, what problem am I solving? You know, and of course, being a math person, we love to solve problems.
Yep.
You know, we're trained for that. And so one of these groups, it had like 6 people around the table, and you couldn't tell from who was sitting who was the lead. Okay. But every person had such strong leadership skills all the way across, you know, and I said, wow, you all have that in common. And then somebody spoke up and he said, I'm the leader of this group. Do you see what my problem is? They all want to lead. Nobody wants to follow me. And I said, yeah, all Indian chiefs. You know, so then we went and, you know, we go into the name and say, this is how you get them to follow. Okay.
So do you do that one-on-one with someone, or do you do it within the group?
Oh, I did it within that whole group so everybody could hear.
Everybody could hear.
That this is what's needed to cause these chiefs to want to follow the head chief.
Yeah.
You know, this is what they're going to need, and this is what each individual is going to need. And then I love the ones where they have, like I had these 2 ladies, and I had worked with this company before, and these 2 ladies, and I thought, okay, it's been 4 years, they're still here, because both wanted to quit and not work for each other. And then one of them says, we still have a problem. And I said, we don't still have a problem. You still have a problem. I said, this is what's going to be expected of you. And if you don't choose to do it and you don't comply because you want to do this according to your name, then you don't belong here. I said, it's flat out. You've got to decide, do you want to comply or do you want to leave? It's not, we have a problem. There's no problem over there.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, but other ones, like I love this other company I was working for. They said, both people want to quit if I don't fire the other one. You know, and I've got to make a decision. So she had worked with me for a while. And so I said, this is what needs to happen. You've got a micromanager as the boss. And you've got a person that everybody loves and does an incredible job, but can't stand being micromanaged. And that's where the conflict is. She needs more detail and information and input from him. And he needs her to stop nagging him.
Yeah.
Right. So I literally said, let's do it this way. She gives him a job And at the end of every day, he does a voicemail call, a summary of who he talked to and what happened. It'll take him less than 5 minutes at the end of every day. She'll be satisfied because she's kept in the loop and she knows what's going on. Well, anyway, that was 6 years ago and they're all still working together.
Nice.
But that's what happened. I mean, to me, it's simple. It's like you look at the names. Oh, this is what this one needs. That's what that one needs. That way he has more freedom and she's not bugging him, and she's getting the details she needs at the end of every day. What clients he saw and what were the conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Win-win.
Win-win
situation.
You know, you can always make win-wins, but you also have to be willing to say, when you look at a name, like that one lady, it's you, it's not us.
It's not us.
You know, it's not her, it's not him.
Them.
It's you.
So, really quickly before we close, because we are coming to a close, I want to talk really quickly about nicknames, because we did mention that, but in the sense of nicknames that change the first letter, like Roberta and Bobby, or Robert and Bob, or Richard, you know, how they William and what is it? Peggy, like
Bill.
Wilhelmina, yeah, and Peggy and William and Bill, and like, how does that even change someone if they go by Peggy instead of
like Margaret?
Margaret, right? Margaret, that's the one. I don't even know how Margaret got to Peggy.
Okay, so what happens is whatever your birth name is, that's why you're here. Your soul has knowledge and it wants to be able to comprehend the knowledge better. So it comes choosing different experiences that will allow it to comprehend the knowledge that it's already holding at a deeper level. Mm-hmm. And we come with 7 separate things that we would really like to comprehend better, and one what I call an overarching idea. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then 7 ways of getting that done. So what happens is when we go by a nickname, we are changing how we're going about those experiences. We are not changing the experiences. Mm. So I like to say that if your birth name says, I got to get from LA to New York, you've got a lot of options. You can walk, you can take a bus, you can get on a train, you know, you can hitchhike, mm-hmm. you can fly in an airplane. You know, how are you going to get to New York? And so if you keep changing your name, you're changing your methodology,
you're changing the route.
You're not changing the goal.
Yes. All right. There you go. That's a perfect example. Well, Sharón, this has been entertaining. It has been informative. It has been amazing. And I can talk to you for hours and hours and hours about all of this, but I know that I am going to learn this, because well, it's kind of the thing that I love to do for people. Say that again.
For your listeners, I have a special option, because these are business people.
Yes.
Right? And so people keep me on retainer so they can call and ask quick questions and get mm-hmm. answers, and not have to take a chunk of time. Okay. And so mm-hmm. if they would like 3.5, if they'd like to purchase 3 hours, I'll give them 3.5 for the same price. They'll get an extra half hour. And so it's $500 even. And they'll need to say that this is where they heard it.
All right. That they heard it on Leading with Audacious Confidence. Yes.
Correct. And then they'll get an extra half hour bonus when they pay for 3 hours.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. So you guys heard that. If you're listening, go to knowthename.com and make sure you let her know that you heard it on Leading with Audacious Confidence, so you can get that extra bonus half hour to sort out all these issues and situations that you're having. You know, I do talent optimization, but like you told me the other day, it's like Nameology is so much faster and so much so much easier. But it is fascinating that I can come at this whole team building from a lot of different angles, because that's just who I am. I love knowledge and I love to help people. And maybe that's in my name too.
The people that have a first vowel of an A, they are the ones that keep the bookstores in operation. See all the books behind you? We are the ones that buy all the books that do excessive reading because it's in our names.
Yeah. I love to learn. So, and I didn't love to learn in school because of the way they made me learn. But then I got out of school and realized I love knowledge. I love to learn. So, but I get to choose. And I think that might be the L. I get to choose what I learn. Don't tell me what to learn.
Well, what happens is in your name, it needs to be practical. You need to learn things that you can utilize. And why learn that other stuff that you're never going to use?
I'm never going to use.
It needs to be practical. That's what's in your name.
Oh my gosh. Again, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I love this. So, but thank you so much for your time on Leading with Audacious Confidence. I never got to whatever your biggest mistake has been in leadership, but I really don't care, because I think you've given us a lot of really great information that we can think about, and think about things differently. So go to knowthename.com and you can get a reading from Sharón. Take advantage of the 3 hours that she's given you, with that extra bonus half hour if you pay for 3, and learn what's going on with you and your team and everything else. So thank you so much. And everyone, listen, check out Sharón Wyeth and you won't regret it. It will be a blast. And you'll learn a lot. So thank you again, Sharón. Any final words you want to share?
My pleasure, Alicia. This is always a joy to be able to join you and speak with you.
Thank you. Audacious confidence is the unshakable belief in yourself that's so brave and so bold that you step into what's possible despite your feelings, fears, or failures. I encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, and share this out with your friends. To check out more episodes of this podcast, visit our blog, aliciacouri.com/podcast. This is Alicia Couri inviting you to lead your life, your teams, and your organization with audacious confidence. Until next time.